Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Fen Talks podcast. On today's episode, we're featuring a very special story as part of our November series where we're talking about giving hope, giving thanks, and giving back. In today's episode, we're featuring Banner MD Anderson's Cancer Center Chief Operating Officer, Mike Herring, and we'll be further discussing giving hope and housing to cancer patients. So for those individuals that haven't had the pleasure of meeting you in person or knowing a little bit more about your background, would you mind just sharing, your story and how you came about to take on this role at Banner MD Anderson?
Oh, absolutely. I guess to start off, I am one of the few. I was actually born in Arizona, born and raised in Arizona, in Mesa. I have been here for quite a long time, not to share my age, but I've been in healthcare for a little over 25 years. I've actually been a registered nurse for 25 years. Nursing is my background. I've worked in multiple hospitals throughout the state in rural areas and then down here in the Phoenix area. For me, I've been with Banner for about 10 years. I started off actually working in the emergency department here at Banner Gateway campus as the emergency room director, and have had just multiple opportunities presented before me. And I left this campus about a little over 3 years, about 6 years ago, and I became the chief nursing officer at Banner Payson Medical Center when Banner Health acquired that hospital. And a little over 3 years ago was asked to come back to the campus of Banner Gateway and Banner MD Anderson Cancer Center and take on the chief operating officer role. And it's just been a phenomenal journey for me, and something that I tend to joke, but I mean seriously. When people ask me my role of being COO, I tell them it actually stands for Chief Obstacle Removal Officer. That's really what my role is to get obstacles out of the way so the physicians and the nurses and the teams here can do their job well, and to get obstacles out of the way so patients can receive care as smoothly and easily as possible, just so they can focus on what they need to of overcoming disease.
Wonderful. I love that Chief Obstacle Officer. That's a good one and something new. So I'm sure I'm going to share that one with some other people I know here in the business community. So I'm sure your team has had to navigate a number of different obstacles throughout the last 12 to 24 months. But for those individuals that are not overly familiar with Banner MD Anderson, the Cancer Center, would you mind just sharing a little bit more about where you're located and who are the patients that you're actively serving?
Absolutely. So Banner MD Anderson Cancer Center is actually a partnership that's been in existence for 10 years. Years ago, as an organization, we realized that we wanted to improve the care we provided for cancer patients. So our president and CEO, Peter Fine, actually initiated the conversations with Banner MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston, Texas. And this led to this partnership of growing to bringing that excellent care that they've developed for years in Texas, so patients within Arizona and the Southwest can receive that same care. So it's been fascinating to watch. I've been with Banner for 10 years. The partnership's been for 10 years, so I've been able to watch it grow into something that I'm truly proud of. And if you look over the growth, this site here in Gilbert is actually the main campus for the program, but we have 5 other sites located throughout the Phoenix area in the Northwest Valley and 2 sites that are in northern Colorado. And over the 10 years, we've actually had the opportunity of serving over 1.5 million different patients. So it's really changed the landscape of cancer care in the Southwest. And it's been rewarding for me to watch when these patients come in, they have access just to the level of expert care, but also clinical trials, integrative support. It's really a holistic approach to cancer care and is really at the cutting edge of care as we align what we do with the Houston and MD Anderson program there.
Like that statistic of over 1.5 million people that your team has continued to serve. Wow, that's really amazing. And kudos to your entire team for that. I think what would be really helpful in this conversation is to help further iron out and share a little bit more information with the general public, because many of us just may not know some of these details. So the first thing I'd like to ask you about, if you're open for it, is, talking a little bit more about the cancer patient experience. And something that I've personally heard about is the fact that lodging is something that often comes into play because cancer patients have to have somewhere to stay during their treatments. So would you mind just sharing a little bit more about what that looks like within the patients that you're serving?
Oh, absolutely. And I think when you look at cancer and the impact, I think it's just impacted almost everyone. It's whether someone they know, a family or friend, whatever that might be, and has impacted my family. And as you gain a knowledge of what cancer care requires, the technology's advanced so much, and the care that we give, there's high risk treatments with that require you to be close by where you're getting that care. So there's diseases, leukemia patients, people undergoing radiation therapy, specific clinical trials, and more specifically, stem cell patients are at high risk moments during their treatment that they need to be 15, 30 minutes nearby the care with the emergency care they might need if they were to have a side effect or something else were to happen. So as we first started this program and grew, it was local, not quite the problem, but as we've continued to expand our reach, you can imagine people coming from rural Arizona or other states that need to be nearby for their care. And sometimes that care period can last months, a month to 6 months. So you can imagine coming from out of town and needing to stay in the Phoenix area and the Gilbert area for 6 months. Besides the stress of what you're going through, besides the cancer and the emotional that you have to deal with, those emotions, the financial piece of that can be insurmountable for a lot of people.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine what some of these families are having to go through. And so, being close by, I know that's something that's so important. So I'm curious, Banner seems to be trying to take on this role to get involved and help with solving this issue for a lot of the patients. And so can you just share a little bit more about, how your team is taking action and trying to help out?
So this has been, I guess I would call it a perk of my job, is I'm able to work, first of all, with amazing people, and we're part of an amazing community. And we actually, as we recognized our program continued to grow, continued to expand its reach, our social workers recognized that we had many patients that just didn't have the means. And they had conversations where some of these patients were having a choice of, do I just stay in my car through those periods? Do I maybe stretch the boundaries a little bit and I found a place I can stay for cheaper that might be an hour away? So it's not the safest situation. And so they came together with the group to identify how we can come about fixing that. But we also recognize, specifically over the last 2 years that you mentioned, the American Cancer Society has hotel partners, the Hope Lodge in Phoenix, and some other resources that were available previously, but over the last 2 years, because of COVID and financial burdens, many of those programs had to close. So it even limited the resources even more for these patients. And we knew that the lack of lodging became a huge barrier for people and was going to impact their ability to get care. And that's, so anything we can do, again, the perk of my job is whatever barriers we can remove. Chief Obstacle Removal Officer, we've got to remove those obstacles and to provide the safest, easiest way for them to get the care they need.
I appreciate you sharing a little bit more about that backstory and how you got to where you are today. Would you mind just sharing a little bit more about, some of the committees that have been established and, this current campaign that you guys are currently working on in an effort to help with solving this?
Absolutely. So a lot of it goes into, first of all, what are the resources available? And like I said, when we first started diving into this, we recognized there was the Hope Lodge, there were some other different areas, and we had partnerships, and we were able to give resources to patients that they could reach out to. We try to connect them to the right people. But as we recognized the need was much greater than what was available for us, we pulled together a group of volunteers, including our Banner Health Foundation, to look at, is there a way for us to create a fund that for that specific population that just don't have the resources available for them, or they don't have the connections. We tried to align them. We tried to make connections. What can we do to step up and help? So our Banner Health Foundation, which for years has just done phenomenal work, and again, a credit to the community and state we live in from so many donors, we created a campaign called the Home Away from Home. And this fund, we're trying to raise an endowment. Our goal is to raise $3 million. We've raised $1.5 million. We reached half our goal so far. And our patient navigators, we have partnerships with hotels that are near our campus, and they give us discounted rates and actually help patients get to and from the hotel to the cancer center. They actually become part of the family. You can imagine many of these patients are there for months. So they get really close with these hotels. The hotels provide a certain level of cleaning, knowing the high risk for these patients. So that's really what started us, is the partnership and then creating this foundation fund.
I also have some friends that are involved with the Thunderbird charities. A lot of people may know them from the Phoenix Open, and they give, great donations in the business community to a lot of really great causes. And so I had heard that the Thunderbirds had stepped up to help out with, this initiative in 2021. Would you mind just sharing a little bit more about what they've done so far?
Oh, absolutely. And to be honest, I don't know where we would be without the Thunderbirds. They were really the initial donor for us and gave us $175,000. We were just starting this program and almost kind of learning how to walk. So for us to pilot it and really get it narrowed down, that first $175,000 they gave us, we wanted to use quickly. And it allowed us to help and benefit 63 patients. So through those first 63 patients, we were able to really streamline and smooth it out, create a good application process, a good approval process, a process that allowed the patient to not have to get caught up and worry about it. Again, trying to minimize the stress they're dealing with. And it really created a foundation for us to now have a good program that we can share a story about, and the individual impact it had on patients who likely would not have been able to come get the care they needed. You can imagine a normal hotel, especially in the winter in Arizona, their rates go up to $250, $400 a night. You're staying for 6 months, and that's just not doable for people. So the Thunderbirds really kick-started the whole program for us and allowed us to get this piloted through and really create a great program.
It's amazing to hear everything that your team has been able to do with just $175,000. So I can't wait to see everything you're able to accomplish once you do have that full endowment. So what I would like to ask you is just, for you personally, what would it mean to actually get that endowment?
So for me personally, again, I guess I can share, as I told you, having been born and raised in Arizona, down the street. For me personally, I have multiple family members who've received care here. I have multiple dear friends who are past patients and current patients here. And having worked in rural Arizona and have seen some of my family members and friends have to travel for their cancer care, and just knowing the emotional drain that the diagnosis and care can provide, just physically and mentally. For me, I've been able to be in the conversations with these patients and their families, and to see us be able to move just that one piece of weight from their back so they don't have to worry about that. And for me, again, nursing background, that's the greatest joy in the world. If you can have someone that gives their trust to you, they're trusting you with their life, and you have the influence and are able to get the right people connected to take just a little weight off their back. I mean, that's the greatest joy in life. I think that's why we're all here, is to lighten the burden of someone else. And for me to be able to see the community pull together to do that, I pinch myself every day. I get to be part of that. So it's honestly the most rewarding thing that I've ever been part of.
Like you mentioned how you have friends and family members that are either current or past patients within the facility. I think the same is probably true for many of us. We all know a family or a friend, that's gone through cancer treatment. And so I think this is one of those causes that hits home to so many different people. And I'm confident that this conversation probably is inspiring a number of different people in the business community to get involved and to help out. So for those individuals that are passionate about this as well, they want to do something, some small thing, some way, what would be the best way for them to do that?
Oh, absolutely. And I appreciate you asking. So people can donate, organizations can donate to our Home Away from Home at any time. But I do want to bring attention to the fact we actually have a donor that has agreed to match dollar for dollar donations up to $60,000 November 11th through 14th. So for those few days, anything that donated it'll be doubled. And for us, for that to happen, it's really easy. You go to give.bannerhealth.com /home away from home. And that's the site you can go in and donate. And specifically those dates, November 11th to 14th, anything you donate will be doubled. So it's a great time to ask that question.
Absolutely. Well, gosh, how awesome is it that you have a donor that's willing to match any of those contributions? So everyone mark your calendar, November 11th through the 14th. That's hitting a couple days before November 30th. November 30th, just as a reminder, is Giving Tuesday. That's the annual time of the year where a lot of people tend to give to local nonprofits and charities throughout the business community. So get a head start, right? As we're entering this season, this time to give hope, give thanks, and give back. I think this would be a perfect one to get involved with. So, Mike, as we look to wrap up today's conversation, is there anything else that you'd like to leave our audience with?
I think for me, I think I'd want to reiterate when we have the opportunity to work with people dealing with the diagnosis of cancer, it really takes a village, and the support we surround each other with, just the love and care we provide, achieves great things. So I think as we come together as a community, and this is a great opportunity for do that, just for everyone that is aware on this, 100% of the contribution goes directly to patient housing. There's no part of it taken out for administration fees or anything like that. It's dollar for dollar goes into this fund. It goes directly to patients. So I would just remind everyone that the website to donate on is give.bannerhealth.com /home away from home. And again, just thank you.
Wonderful. Well, we'll be sure to share all those links within our posts as well as in the description of this podcast episode. But more than anything, just thankful that you took the time to join us on this episode to share a little bit more about all the great work that your team is doing, and as well as the work that the Banner Health Foundation is doing as well. So listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. As a reminder, November is the perfect time to give back, to give hope, and to give thanks. So thank you so much. Hopefully today's episode inspired all of you to keep moving forward. So Mike, thanks again for joining us.